Alright, so I'm cleaning off this really beautiful Art Deco vanity chair. I'm not even really sure what I'm going to do with it. I've got a bunch of different images in my head of possibilities of different colors, maybe a little gold. I like a little bling. I think like a tufted seat. I still have the original board. I've just removed it to clean it off. I'm thinking about maybe refinishing the waterfall pattern because I don't want to really paint over that, but the rest of it's kind of good to go as far as painting. But I think I want to try to preserve this part if possible. I'm not sure. So I've cleaned, like for instance, this arm. I had to go in here with a toothbrush, and I'm actually using like lightly soapy water, like dish soap, very, very lightly, because it's been sitting out in the garage and hasn't been used much in the last couple years. It hasn't been used. I used it as a girl. It was part of a bedroom set for me, and then I think we used it a little bit around the house here and there, but it's been kind of sitting for a couple years. So the dust and dirt is kind of on there. So I'm really washing it down really good, and then I'm gonna rinse it and wipe it. And so then we'll get to the priming. Well, actually we'll sand first, I'm sorry. I'm probably gonna sand a little bit just to kind of even up where the scratches are and stuff like that, kind of even that up a little bit. And these corners that are worn down, kind of just sand it a little bit, not much really, just to kind of like even out any scratches and dents and that kind of thing. And then we'll go to priming, okay? Get my toothbrush. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna do this arm, and then I'll get back with y'all. Alright, so it's been cleaned up. I've cleaned it off pretty good. So now it's drying. I'm just going in, finding any crevices I can pat down a little bit more with the towel, and then I'm gonna sit it in front of the stove. You know, with your gas oven, gas stove, there's always a little bit of heat. Sometimes when there's something that needs to dry, like sometimes if we have wet shoes, clothing, I don't know, something, you can always sit it in front of your gas stove to get a little free heat. One way to use energy that's being wasted, basically. Alright, so of course you don't want to use water on most antiques, especially ones that are particularly old or where the stakes are a bit higher and it's more expensive. But in this case, because I'm doing such an overhaul of this piece, and this piece I've had for a while, I'm not really worried about it or anything like that. Deco is not really in high demand right now, but I plan on doing something pretty fabulous to this piece. And so I'm not scared of water, using a little water on it, but of course you wouldn't want to like wet something down and then just like let it sit and start molding or mildewing or something like that. But I mean, wood is pretty solid, especially old school pieces, you know, antiques and such. And since this is something that I'm going to be sanding and painting anyway, but I mean, if it was a piece that you weren't going to be painting, you weren't going to be sanding, and I don't know, things like that. Maybe certain types of wood, you might not want to do that. But in this case, I mean, the chair already looks better. But I was just using very lightly soapy water and not dousing it. Just using I had a cloth that was wet and just kind of, you know, concentrating on what was dirty. I don't know, wiping it down. So, okay, I'm gonna let it dry and then get to the sanding. Alright, so I'm just doing a light sand, getting this ready to do the decorative painting. Just want to kind of smooth out some of these rough scratches and dents, just to make the palette a little bit easier, even though it's still going to be like a distressed antique look that this will probably have at the end. So I'm going to sand it. Alright. And I'll get back with y'all on the next step. Alright, so we just want to like, look those areas that are kind of might maybe have like a little bit of a, see here, it's kind of like an indent, kind of smooth out those edges, just give it Here's one right here. Oof, that's a pretty rough one right there. So I'm just gonna sand this down a little bit to give it a good palette to start with. All right. And I'll get back to y'all on the next part. All right, so I'm still sanding it, making sure not to make any, the gouges worse. You got to be really gentle when you're working with. Let's see, what kind of wood is this? I'm not really sure. It's kind of light. It's like a pecan or something. Pecan, a light oak, blonde oak. So you want to be really gentle. Use like a fine or a medium grit sandpaper, and you don't want to press too hard. You want to be really light with it, because we're not trying to alter the shape of the chair, but we just want to smooth it out. See? Okay. Alright, so I've sanded it down, I think, pretty good. So now I'm just going to brush off the residue, and then I'm going to probably like lightly wipe it. And then use, after I wipe it, I'm going to take my actual fingertips and run across it to see how smooth it is in certain areas. Right. I should have a mask on, but I don't. Okay, and like I was saying, I want to be able to save this waterfall design here. So I've sanded it down to refinish it. Okay. So I'm going to continue, get all this dust off of here, and like I said, come back with a slightly damp cloth. This one's dry for the most part. Come back with a slightly damp one to get some of the extra stuff off. You can also use a cheesecloth if you like. If you're scared about getting any water on your wood, which I'm not, obviously. But of course, you don't want to wet it down. This particular type of wood, no, I wouldn't do it. But a little bit of dampness is good, as long as you let it dry immediately thereafter.